Well, let's get started. Hello, Catalina. I'm Andrew Colby, the youth minister and tech intern here at Catalina United Methodist Church. And recently it dawned on me that although I have been at Catalina for a little while now, many of you may not have actually gotten to know me in the short amount of time before we went to online services. And some of you may even be new to this church and really don't know who I am at all. So I figured I would take this time to start a video series that I'd be posting to Facebook every week, just like the rest of our staff, to give you guys a chance to know a little bit more about who I am and what I do, whether that's outside of the church, just in my personal life, or what I am doing with the youth and the tech inside this church. So here we go. So some of you may know I am the son of our associate pastor here, Pastor Matt, and I grew up here in Tucson. I lived on the north end of Tucson and have grown up here pretty much my entire life. I attended Cassis Christian School, starting from first grade, going all the way up until 8th grade, and then I went to Ironwood Ridge High School. Some of my interests, some of the things I did growing up from elementary school to high school, I was part of Cub Scouts, which eventually turned into Boy Scouts. And that was a really long part of my life that I was involved in. I was involved in theater while I was in high school. I did a number of plays, including The Diary of Anne Frank, The Crucible, and a couple other musicals that are very popular, like Mary Poppins, Footloose. While I was also bringing it back to Boy Scouts, I did eventually get my Eagle Scout rank, which means that I essentially went through all the different ranks, learned a lot of leadership roles, and eventually had to lead my own project in which I personally built a fire pit and path that was easier to access at one of our previous churches, Desert Skies. A lot of times while I was in Boy Scouts too, I got really involved in a lot of the high adventure activities such as backpacking, canoeing, sailboating. Those were three big camps that I attended my summers at, and I actually got to experience some really cool things, especially for those who are familiar with Boy Scouts. I got to attend Philmont Scout Ranch, which is in northern New Mexico. While I was in northern New Mexico, I got to hike the mountain ranges around there, backpack, camp out there, got to do other activities such as rock climbing, this really interesting activity called spar pulling, where you attach a spike to your boot and then climb up a tree post, and different things like that. I also had the opportunity to summit one of the mountains there while I was at Philmont Scout Ranch. Some of the stuff now that I am doing, now that I'm in college, I attended Pima Community College, and now I am a student at the University of Arizona, our neighbor here at Catalina. I'm currently in what is called Literacy, Learning, and Leadership. That is my major. It's in the College of Education, and I'm looking to do something with ministry, with missions, and hopefully with youth. Most of my summers got to attend mission trips, going with my dad, and when I was in youth group, my own youth group. And then even 2 summers ago, I got to be an intern for this organization called Next Step Ministries. And it meant I went to Oklahoma City. That was the place I was assigned. And I lived there all summer, along with about 8 or 9 other college students as fellow staff members. And each week we would lead students in different mission construction projects. And with that, we also got to lead worship. My personal job was to actually be kind of the pastoral role. I was the speaker every night. There was a video that Next Step put out, a video series, and then I would kind of just share a personal story that related to the topic that night. And so while I was on that trip, I really thought about how much I enjoyed missions, I enjoyed working with youth, and I had this idea that I wanted to work with youth in ministry. And so shortly after that, I came here back to Tucson after the summer's over, and my dad was here at Catalina, and there was an opening for the youth ministry role, and so I applied, and that is why I'm here today as your youth ministry intern. And bringing it back to Oklahoma City, I had this really cool experience in which I saw this organization that we partnered with that was turning this property around them, these fields, this land that they had around their office that was in the middle of this poor neighborhood, I mean almost dead center of the city, they were turning it into like farmland and garden areas. And so while we were there were 3 greenhouses being built, and we got to be a part of helping to see that through. We were building fences around it. We were helping to make the garden areas look pretty by building this archway entrance into it. We built this giant porch that would be used kind of as an outdoor learning area. And what this organization called Restore OKC was trying to do is they were trying to take this area around them and provide basically internships for the teenagers in that neighborhood around them. And what would happen is if the teenagers went through this internship learning about, gardening and growing things, agriculture, they would graduate from this program and get scholarships to other universities in Oklahoma, which, as many of you probably know, that agriculture is very big in Oklahoma, given it's like flat and more rainstorms than we would probably ever get here. But that kind of inspired me, and so this year I was taking a look at some of the classes. I have a lot of freedom to choose my classes with my major, and I wanted to see about what are things I can be taking class-wise to kind of help me missionally. So right now I'm currently taking a class called Community and School Garden Workshop. It means that on Zoom I get to learn about growing seasons, planting gardens, all the logistical stuff, and then the rest of the time is 6 hours of community service in which I go to some of these school campuses with a couple of their students, and we help maintain their gardens. And so that's a lot of what I am currently up to right now. I'm looking at just different things, different skills I can gain that I can be able to create programs for communities, for youth, for even adults, things that people need to just have something to be passionate about, have something that's going to help them, and also provide them an outlet in which they get to hear about Christ, about God. And so I just wanted to share some of that with you, Catalina. You'll hear more from me, probably in shorter videos, but that's kind of the general gist of it. And I can't wait to meet more of you, whether it is virtually or eventually once we hit a point that we're back in person. Goodbye.